So thanks for coming. Thank you, Taylor, for the wonderful introduction. Thank you to Angela, who was originally the person who invited me here to talk. She's out in San Antonio, that's right. And thank you, Patrick, who I actually work with from time to time with our daily email sends. So before I begin here, let me just kind of ask, what is the most important thing people here are most interested in when it comes to email? I just want to make sure that I address the most critical components of whatever project you're working on. Anybody like to volunteer on talking about the areas specific in email that you'd like to focus on? No? Okay, well, what I'll do is, this is a very high level, oh, yeah, go for it.
Well, when I send an email, I wanted to arrive at inbox, my customer inbox, and I wanted to look good. I wanted like not to be garbled or anything. I wanted to look good so that the customer would be sent to spam.
Sure, sure. So the question was, basically, what's the best practices for coding your emails so that a customer won't mark it as spam? That's a great question. So talking to Taylor, it sounds like one of the most common questions that he gets is deliverability, so spam. So that's toward the end. So I will kind of breeze through this presentation because this is really geared for all of email marketing, and very holistic from start to finish. But if you have any questions at any time, please just stop me, raise your hand. If there's something that you don't understand or something you'd like me to go more in depth, I'd be happy to do that. So just a little bit about myself again. So I actually started working with email at Charles Schwab. I come from a database background. I was a database developer, and I was working on database systems for HRIS at Charles Schwab. After about 4 years of that, it started getting a little bit old, especially since I've been doing that for most of my career. So I wanted to try something different, and I moved to their database marketing, email marketing, and I really, really loved it. It was at this time that one of my friends had contacted me, who was working at One Kings Lane, which was one of the hot companies at the time. It was riding the wave of the whole flash sales, Groupon, daily deals phenomenon. At this time, it was actually around the same time that Mark Zuckerberg had said and predicted that email is dead. So I was actually a bit concerned if this was the right career move for me. Because a lot with social media, with all different verticals, I think it was an easy thing to say at that time, especially with the messaging apps getting really popular. But One Kings Lane seemed like a really exciting and fantastic place to go, so I decided why not take the leap and join the startup. I will talk more about One Kings Lane. So this deck is going to give a very high-level overview of my philosophy in email marketing. Key components we're going to talk about is analysis, the base list, acquisition methods, creative technical design, lifecycle promotions, transactional, and I think what the meat of what a lot of you want to know about ISP delivery. So before you even start with your email campaign, the very, very first thing to do is just analyze your data. Know your business. What exactly is it that you're trying to achieve? There's so many different business models out there in different business industries that really it's not a one-size-fits-all. I came from a finance industry where it was mostly transactional emails, very light on marketing. When I migrated to One Kings Lane, it was all retail. Not just in terms of you're pushing and selling stuff, but we did this multiple times a day. Sometimes 3 times a day we would send to our whole population. Millions of emails within a span of 10 minutes, and I'll go into that a little bit later. So definitely look at your data, find out what exactly it is you're trying to accomplish with your business. So I know everybody here is involved in a different business, a different industry, so email is definitely not a one-size-fits-all. Okay, I can't stress enough how important it is to test your emails. You got to test, and test again. I like to call email a weapon of mass distribution. It is definitely a WMD. I can tell you it is one of the scariest things to be an email marketing manager, because you could just screw up royally with just one push of the button. And I see some smiles out there, and I know people understand what I'm talking about. Let me give you a couple anecdotes. So Fab, that was one of our competitors. One time they accidentally sent out an email with just the cat. That's it. They sent to millions of people an image of a cat. Okay. Now that wasn't as damaging as what Shutterfly had done. It was Mother's Day, and they accidentally sent out to all their customers Happy Mother's Day. Now, at first glance, this might not be that big of a deal, but what happened was a lot of people in that space were not mothers. In fact, a lot of them just recently had a miscarriage. This caused a lot of harm. It started spreading on wildfire, and you know, there's people who are professional victims, so they'll take this and whine and complain and cry as hard as they can. It'll happen. Many accidentally sent an email out to their population that made no sense at all. They actually had to send another physical package of a chocolate rose. So it's very, very dangerous. People here know that email is one of the scariest things to be behind. Another thing is you always want to constantly look at your email metrics, okay? And what are email metrics? And a lot of it is very obvious. Open rates, click rates, login rates after that. So what primarily drives open rates? Subject line, right? It makes sense. But I know a lot of you guys have been seeing now, and you see it with Yahoo, this is the trend right now, is behavioral clickbaiting. I'm sure you guys have seen this. I've fallen victim to it. You'll see a headline, and I liken it to like when you had a news, like old media with news, right before commercial break, Joe Bob did the most crazy thing. You would not believe it after these messages. You know, that's how the clickbait is now, right? How many times have you clicked on something and you're like, what the heck? This story has nothing to do with the headline, right? That's sort of what's in vogue right now. We're actually experimenting with it. There's a couple companies out there like Persado that is trying to quantify text, quantify certain words. So they're trying to add a science to it. I haven't fully bought into it. My early tests have shown that instead of paying these companies a lot of money to use their fancy proprietary algorithm to come up with these buzz keywords, just do your own A/B testing. It's free, it's cheap, you can do it infinitely. That's what I've been doing. I've been able to beat them, and my manager likes that because I don't have to pay thousands of dollars to some third-party site to make up my subject lines for me. So just keep that in line. I might be wrong. They might be able, there really might be something to this behavioral, qualitative, scientific alignment of text. So it's something to keep an eye on. Segment your lists. Not all of us here are different, right? Not any one of us have the same profile. Don't do a one-size-fits-all message. The beauty that we have with email marketing is, unlike old media, we have all our customer data tracked, right? So leverage that. You know who are your active people, you know who are the people logging in, you know the people who have like blown you off, right? So you can custom tailor your message to the folks that are your super fans, and then the person who hasn't logged in a year, right? And this is just easy, this is low-hanging fruit. You can even incent the person who hasn't logged in a year, and you can pull back the incentives for the folks who are really engaged. And then one thing with email and technology, you guys all know this, you guys are all tech people, it's evolutionary, it's never gonna end, which is good for job security. Always learn, always constantly keep your mind open to new things. Don't ever, I like to say to my email team, the only bad idea or stupid idea is the idea you don't test. Like, you've seen it on Yahoo and other sites, these crazy ads where it's so ugly. It's like a girl dancing, and it's like purposely lo-fi. It's like, the reason why those work is because they work. Like sometimes that really crappy picture, for some crazy reason, just resonates. Now keep in mind, you won't see Apple doing this anytime soon. So if it doesn't align with your brand, of course, don't go that way. There is certain areas where you don't want to cross, okay? So analysis, that's the first thing. Before you even start writing a single line of HTML, before you start even looking at your database, before you even do anything, just paper and pencil, know your business, know what you're trying to get at. Once you kind of understand what your goal is and what you're trying to accomplish, everything, the very first step is just writing it on paper. So just kind of lay down your game plan. So let me stop there. Any questions before I go on? Okay. All right. So now that you got your strategy, it all starts with base list, right? Your database, okay? One of the questions that I always get is, how do I get my list, okay? I know all of you probably have been solicited by folks who say, we have a list, and here, give us some money, and we'll give it to you. We'll even let you test. In my whole experience with email, every email list has been bad. I never buy lists. Just kind of stay away from it. That's not to say that you shouldn't try it, but if you do try it, make sure you segregate that email list that you purchased on a separate IP. And I'll kind of go over that a little bit later. Because who knows, it might be a good list. Maybe they really did get a good list. It's definitely possible. But I'll go into that. Stale or invalid emails are just bad. And it happens all the time. People change email providers, or it's a fake email that they sign up with. Really, what you want to do is you want to keep your email list fresh, relevant. You don't want to have a stale list. The reason why is when you have a big percentage of your email list that is stale or old, that really, really hurts your deliverability. That's one of the components that email service providers use to determine what goes in a spam folder and what doesn't. So if you have a certain percentage of your email list that are consistently bouncing, consistently bad, even if it's good, even if it's an active email, but a huge portion of your percentage never open your email, that's a demerit. So let me back up a bit. Google, Yahoo, AOL, MSN, they all have their own secret sauce of what email goes into a spam box, okay? We've third-party sites and we've kind of tried to reverse engineer it. In a nutshell, what it is of course, how many of them hit that spam button? I would say that's the main, that has the highest weighting, okay? If the email itself doesn't follow really standard coding practices, an example of this is just an email with just one big picture. That's it. Not a single, like just one line of HTML. That's a huge red flag. Certain keywords. So of course, anything having to do with one-night stands, Viagra, and unfortunately, like payday finance, a lot of finance stuff, which is something that we've struggled with because there's just so many fly-by-night companies that do finance. So keywords. And then I mentioned just the engagement rate. So if consistently your population, if only a small fraction are ever opening or engaging with the emails, that also is a demerit. So this is really important. Just have your base list. Plus, it's just good business. You don't want to be sending emails to people who don't want your email. It's not good for the long term. Now, a lot of people will say, you know, the more the better. We've all seen those Nigerian email scams. The thing about it is, for a long-term sustainable business, you're in it for the long game. The Nigerian guy, he can send to the 30 million and have 99%, 99.5% just never be engaged in it. He just needs that one hit. He just needs that one hit to get, unfortunately, the person who is on the onset of dementia or Alzheimer's. That's really who they prey on is the elderly, who are not in their right state of mind. All they need is one, right? So they can take this shotgun approach. People kind of see this with our own day-to-day experiences, looking at all these crazy emails and spam and say, you know what, okay, it must be working for these guys, so let me just spam my population. It's actually not good, because in the long term, you just burn your bridges. You're not creating a sustainable foundation for your long-term engagement, okay? Another thing is spam traps, okay? This is a very interesting thing. So what a spam trap is simply this. Email service providers, they actually purposely put out fake emails out there because they know a lot of people scrape the web for email lists. And often they scrape the web and then they sell it, right? It's one of those lists that I told you never to buy. So these emails never existed, okay? They're plants, okay? And if someone ever sends to this, bam, Google knows that you've got this email using, you weren't using legitimate methods, that you used, it's an unsolicited email that got into your list. That is really, really dangerous. There's two kinds of spam traps. There's new spam traps, which I just described. When I say new, that means it's an email that's never been used before, okay? It's Google coming up together and saying, let's make Skywalker552@gmail, and then they'll just plan it on some site, and then they'll wait for a scraper to pull it, and then bam, we got you. There's recycled. The recycled are not as bad. What a recycled email is, you sign up for Yahoo, you haven't used it for 3 years. What happens is sometimes the email service provider will cancel it, and then they'll put it back in circulation. Now, during this time, there's a period. They don't just put it back in circulation right away. What they do is they do something called seasoning the trap. Okay. Basically, what it is this: they'll deactivate it of one of 3 time periods: 6 months, a year, and 18 months. Okay. Google is the most strictest. They do about 6 months. Some of AOL is a little bit more liberal. They do 18 months. And what they do is for this time period, they'll deactivate the account. Okay. So if you send an email to this recycled email, it'll bounce back. Now, every responsible email marketer should automatically unsubscribe any email that gets sent out and bounce back, right? So the thinking is, if for 6 months you haven't unsubscribed this person who you've been emailing for 6 months and they've been constantly bouncing back, then you're probably not a reputable email provider. Okay, so that's the second type of spam trap. It's a recycle trap. It's not as bad as the new trap, but they're both bad. Okay, and I would say this is the top of list of things you want to look out for, right? So and it's really hard to know, like if you have one of these, but there's ways. Like we unfortunately got some of these, and it takes a lot of effort, especially if you have millions of customers, to kind of isolate them, try to root them out. Okay, just regularly maintain your list hygiene. Like if someone hasn't replied to you in a year, you probably lost them. It depends on your business. Definitely in like 2 years, there's no reason why you keep on emailing them. Okay, so acquisition. Okay, since you can't buy these emails, how the heck are you going to get the emails? Okay, so what most sites do is they gate their site. So you've seen it all. They try to create a buzz for your new product. Most startups do this. Before it goes live, they have their invite and they try to make it viral. So submit your email, we'll contact you when our product goes live. That's been very effective. In fact, Google just did it today, is very apt because Google's revamping their Gmail. So today, between 3 and 4, they sent out a tweet saying, email us at so-and-so address and you will get a special invite to our new app, our new email app. That was today. And it's just a short period of time. So what they're doing right there is actually they're collecting emails, right? So one thing that's a big question is, should you gate your site, right? And when I say gating, it's like if you go to a site, before you can even access any of the goodies, there's a little pop-up and you have to put your email. I mean, it really depends. You should just test it. So at One Kings Lane, we did a test to see if gating our site made sense, financial sense. And then there's just a simple equation there. For the most part, we found that it's very effective, especially if you keep it very low barrier to entry. Just have the one box, don't do a confirm. If they spelled it wrong or gave you a fake one, so what? You could always make sure it follows the right email specs, but for the most part, we saw most people have been honest. We had a very low erroneous email rate. Leverage existing channels. So if you have transactional emails already going out when someone buys something or you do something with your product, just have a little box there that says sign up for special offers. If you want to be really aggressive, add some sort of financial incentive to that. Some sites say if you can get 10 of your friends to sign up, we'll give you $10 or whatever amount. So that's sort of the invite a friend. Again, purchase lists tend to be outdated. Again, QA is king. You got to be really, really tough. And this kind of goes to your question back there of how to make your emails relevant to the customer. So email is very much half art, half science, right? So your emails not only have to be functionally designed optimally, but also look good. So first off the bat, let me tell you, when you're designing email, mobile first, okay? No, but that goes without saying. Everybody here already knows that you're going to open most of your emails on mobile, okay? So there's a lot of techniques out there that really optimize your emails so that they just look great on an iPhone, on an Android, on an iPad. Desktop should be your secondary concern. Go mobile first. And the reason why you want to do that is a lot of people are designing for desktop first, and you have these emails that have tiny script. And a lot of people, we're all young here, but there's a lot of baby boomers, and a lot of times they just really can't see the script, right? So you want to follow what's called responsive design. It's sort of a movement. It's big text that pops, not very cluttery. The email resizes properly. And all this you can just find on the web. It's like anytime I'm designing emails, I just grab code from any of the service providers. It's all there. So and it's really imperative because a lot of people still are coding emails for the desktop, and that's just goofy. And then yeah, go for it.
I'm seeing more and more mobile-only emails where people would just it doesn't resize for desktop at all, and it's just a mobile view.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
So that's probably because they don't have as many resources. Because
Square is mobile only.
See, that's kind of goofy because you could use media queries.
Yeah.
So that's what we did at One Kings Lane. So you could just use media queries, identify the device, and then it just resize appropriately. Yeah, it's extra work. And with Squared, it might just be maybe the volume of emails that don't have the resources. Or they may have even done the analysis and found that it didn't have a drop in engagement, that people were willing to engage just as much on the desktop. So kind of going back to what I was saying, test. You might save yourself work if you do go ahead and do this and then run the test and you're like, you know what? You don't have to do desktop anymore. Maybe it lifts it just a couple basis points. Like it's not worth the work, right? Yeah.
Do you use any kind of frameworks to create your responsive emails, like Zerbank or anything like that?
Sure. So the question is do we use any framework to build our emails? So if anybody here who's worked email knows email is so old school, right? It's like no CSS, everything has to be in line. It's funny, when we were interviewing for email people, we said, if you know HTML from the 90s, that's good. It's like, because you'll get these like super web builders who come, and they're like, they can make the most beautiful websites, but then when email, it's like they're just pulling their hair out because it's so archaic, right? So I'm sure all of you experience this. framework-wise, you know, it's changing so quickly. What we do is we go to sites like ExactTarget. They're basically email service providers, and what they do is they regularly have blogs where they will publish tricks, workarounds that you can use, because email clients are always evolving and changing, especially Gmail. So it's important that you subscribe to these major providers because they'll always put their code there. So you can always just grab it, and it really is a matter of just taking that code, putting it in. A good example of this is Yahoo had a problem with resizing. So it was one of the sites, I don't know who it was, but they found a workaround. So just grabbed it, boom, stuck it in there, no more resizing problem. Other stuff like forcing your email to fully render on an iPhone, right? Because some iPhones, it will just render the top half of the email, won't render the bottom. There's workarounds of that. So the ones I would hit up is return path, ExactTarget, and responses. Those are the ones that I regularly look at. Actually, I just subscribe to them, and they'll send me a newsletter with this month's tips, right? Does that answer your question? Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Do you use a service to test out your email? Or
yes.
Do you have a
yes. We do. So there's a caveat with that. So there's a couple services there, and what that is if you're not familiar with it, is it's basically you send your email to an address, and then you log in, and then it'll show your email how it renders on different clients and different devices. Okay, we found this to work pretty well, but I've found that it wasn't foolproof. There's been times when it looks perfectly, and then they get it, and it's like, no, they totally got this wrong. Unfortunately, the only real way to do it is to have the devices there and actually send it. They're okay. If it's a critical email, I would still send it, because as other people, if you're not, I see nodding heads, like it's painful because it is. Oh man. There's been times when I send an email and it's just completely wrong, and the provider, it looks perfect on the provider, right? And then customer service and member support is just, they want to kill you. Okay, technical design. So, I'm just going to go real high level here. So, at One Kings Lane, one of the crazy challenges there was. And this was a culture shock for me, was not only did we have to send a huge amount of email, which is par for the course now, it's no big deal. Because it was a flash sales model and our events were time specific, we would have to send millions of email in a span of 10 minutes or less, sometimes 5 minutes. Millions. I was used to, and most businesses, it's okay if your email, you queue it up and it kind of throttles throughout the day. At a flash sales site, that's not possible with the sales model, because the sales limited. It's going to end. Plus the inventory is limited. So if anybody here is working on, or is in the future planning to work on emails that need to, huge amount that need to go out in a short period of time, it's very possible. And a lot of this was invented because of the flash sales industry. And you have to use caching. Okay, ExactTarget. In this case, we use ExactTarget, and basically we use their proprietary caching. There's a segment of code where you could basically cache the areas of your email that are repetitive, and then only render the dynamic portions. Okay, that's the only way that you're going to send out millions upon millions of email within 5. We've gotten even down to 5 minutes. I can't disclose the exact number, but it's in the high millions. I'll just leave it at that. Email size is important, especially if you're sending a huge amount, because when everyone's on mobile. If it's too huge, it might take just a long time to download. Keep the flat images to a minimum. Give it good text, a mix of text and images. This is sort of overplayed. It was a bigger issue in the past where people were using more images. The email service providers have really kind of pulled back on this because a lot of legitimate sites are now kind of just using majority images in their email. So that's not as important now, but you should definitely avoid just that one picture, and that's it. Your email is a picture. Use a layer cake approach on your coding. Okay, what's layer cake approach? When you're designing your email, just think of it like a wedding cake. Okay, I found this to be the easiest way to deal with huge amounts of email, because then it's really easy to you basically modularize the email, right? So just put everything, code it in a way where you could just take the layers out, because you can often re-put that in other emails instead of having just really ridiculous nested tables where it just becomes a huge pain. So try to just kind of, if you can, when you're coding emails, just make sure you kind of just think of it at that stack level. So, and you know, even if you have like 20 levels, that's fine, because it's easy to just kind of swap it out. Think of it like cartridges, right? Pixel triggers. So pixel triggers are just things that you use for tracking. Make sure you put that at the top. That was a big mistake, because a lot of mobile phones, of course, do not download the whole image. So make sure you put it, download the whole email. You have to press a button. Leverage auto preview. Okay, so in email, you have your subject line, but I find most people ignore this special trick. Okay, most email clients have an auto preview, including the iPhone. What that is it's not only the subject line, but if you're looking through your emails, it'll also have the first sentence of the email, right? This is free space. And I can't tell you how many times I'm looking at a marketing email and we have a big sale now, and then the second line is some HTML gobbledygook. That's free space for you to use. It's super easy. It's just the very first instance of your HTML, put whatever text you want there, just hex code it white. It's transparent to the user, and you now just doubled your subject line space. We found by doing this, we've dramatically increased open rates, just because you have double the space, right? Okay, so let me just kind of go through here real quick, Lifecycle. So email, you really want to make it like a very positive experience, in the sense that it's not just we want to sell you something, we really do want to help you. I think everybody here has certain emails that they don't unsubscribe from, including me. And why don't I unsubscribe to them? Because they actually give me information that I will use. And sometimes I won't use it right now, but I'll just put it in a folder. You should really have a lifecycle program, because it shows that you're going that extra step, and people appreciate it. So always have an onboarding program. Very few people will resent you for that. It's not selling anything, it's just telling you what the product is, how it can help you. And it's still fresh, the initial sign up is still fresh in the user's mind, that they're very unlikely to unsubscribe at that point. They signed up for a reason. So the onboarding is really, really important, because you still have a huge amount of their attention. So it's that crucial time period where you can really make your best impression on them. Search abandonment. This is another really great strategy. Just like cart abandonment. You're on Amazon or whatever. You search for a video game. It was too expensive or whatever. You didn't like it. Shoot an email to the person. Hey, you know, we saw that you put this in your cart, or you looked at this. Tell you what, we'll give you 10% off. You know, we've found some success there. Seasonal events. Okay, this is one of the easiest things you can do. Who doesn't love on your birthday with no marketing, just, hey, happy birthday, have a great day. That's it. I've never unsubscribed from that. You know, if there's like a huge like, okay, and here's our TV, then yeah, maybe. But for the most part, like, if you just keep it very soft touch, soft engagement, happy birthday, hope you have a great day, the end. You know. And who knows, that could plant the seed to, you know, oh yeah, I forgot about these guys. Let me buy something from them, or I forgot about them, or whatever. Okay, promotions. Promotions, you got to be really, really careful with this. It can be very, very powerful, but it could also just totally destroy you. One thing that I've noticed is there's two types of promotions. One is the ones that will give you that short-term lift, that short-term bump. And I've seen most email, unfortunately, do this type of lift. Yeah, it drives your it gives you that spike of revenue, but these people never come back again. You really want, when you're doing promotions, you really want to try to structure it in a way where it's long-term value. Not just, oh, this is a good deal, I'm going to take advantage of it, sayonara, never seeing you again. How do you do that? Well, that's the challenge. One thing that you could do is try to tie it somehow, tie the promotion somehow to some sort of like frequent buyer program or some sort of subscription model. Or there's different ways of looking at it. It's a tough nut to crack. This is an area that we're still trying to work on. So unfortunately, I don't have as much information here because it is sort of that elusive unicorn that we're all trying to find. But just keep in mind that when you are doing a promotion, yeah, you'll get that short-term bump, but really what you want to look for is that long-term value. That you don't want that customer for that day. You want that customer a year from now, 2 years from now. So structure in a way where the promotion engages them long-term. Okay, transactional emails. Now this is your Trojan horse. This is your way of spamming your people where they will usually not unsubscribe or they actually expect it, okay? This is the time where you can really kind of be a bit devious, you know? You purchase something, it's your confirmation email, you know, don't be heavy-handed, but feel free to put a little nugget of marketing info under there. Like, and you see this already. Like, say you buy something, you know, tack on at the bottom of your receipt, put the $10 off coupon on your next purchase. Put your social media cues there. Share that I just bought this. This is the time where they expect the email, they want the email, and if you can put some kind of marketing info in there, who's unsubscribed from a receipt, right? So it's a good way to just kind of, it's a good way to squeeze it in. And speed is of the essence. You want to do this as closely aligned to whatever behavior, right? All right, next. Okay, now here is the meat. All right, ESP deliverability monitoring. Okay, so how do you know, like, how many of your emails are going in a spam box? How many of your emails are being rejected? How many times people are hitting spam? So there's service providers out there, unfortunately. I don't know of any way that this can be done in-house that can be that is cost effective. The two sites I use is Return Path and Mail Monitor. Okay, and what these services do, and they're not prohibitively expensive. What they do is they'll seed your emails. All seeding is they have a set of email boxes and they'll give you that list, and it's usually about 200, and you'll sprinkle them throughout your email list. When you send your email out, they'll collect data, and they're often partnered with sites. Actually, not often, they are. They're partnered with Microsoft, with Google, Yahoo, all the major email service providers. And what they do is they take data from these seeded mailboxes, as well as the aggregate of all their other customers, and they'll be able to give you a pretty good approximation of what the percentage of folks are that are hitting that spam button, what the percentage of folks are that are bad emails that are bouncing, and I kind of talked about this earlier, how many spam traps you hit. That's the key thing. Now, there are a bunch of vigilante sites out there. Spamhaus comes to mind. Spamhaus is It's this organization that is literally out of a bunker, I think in Netherlands, and they're very like militaristic. They've taken it upon themselves, and I think it's very noble. You know, it's like as an email marketer, it's a love-hate, right? It make my job harder, but as a consumer, I love them. Their job is basically to identify spammers. Okay, Taylor was talking about this earlier. All right, so every one of your emails will come from an IP, right? Everybody knows that. Now, IPs, when you first start out, they're a virgin IP, okay? You always have to do something called warming up the IP, okay? Anytime a Yahoo or a Gmail sees a new IP, it's like, hey, who is this? There's like extra scrutiny. And for a time period, that IP will be on probation, okay? It's this time period where they put you under the microscope to make sure that you're not the Nigerian scammer, that you're not the Canadian drug company, okay? So when you're first starting to send your email out, you gotta be really, 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 really careful. A lot of people make the mistake of buying one of these lists with verified users, you know? They're like, okay, bam, and they send out 1 million emails from a brand new IP. And 30% of people hit that spam button. They're dead. None of their emails will ever be delivered. They're already done. If you ever, like, and spam filtering has gotten to the point where it's pretty darn good. I love it. You could see in your spam filters, it's quite effective. And that's the algorithm they use. So when you're first starting out, you want to do what's warming up your IP. And the way to warm up your IP is to make sure your initial list, and it's always good to start small, your initial list is high quality. And when I say high quality, it's people who want your email or won't hit that spam button or is not a fake address. Because what this will do is it'll establish a relationship. It will establish a historical relationship. Gmail will see, oh, 99.5% of people didn't hit spam. Okay, these guys might be okay. They'll track you daily, every time you send. And once you kind of establish yourself, then kind of dial up those volumes. Once you're kind of on a good clip, then the IP is fully warm. And that's what we call warm IP. And you have a pretty good confidence that you can send. So it's not going to be one of these instances where they'll shut you down if for some reason you have a spike in people. I don't know. You might send one email just nobody likes, and they'll hit spam. They're not going to completely shut you down because they'll see that you have this history of responsible email marketing. You know, now if you keep on doing it, yeah, of course. But if you do this right from the get-go with an IP that's still brand new, forget it. You're never going to send. You're already done. Yeah.
How do I know if my IP is warm?
That's the secret sauce. No ESP discloses what time period. So it's part of that science and art. They don't tell. There is no like Google guide to responsible email marketing. Well, they do, but it's very vague in general. It's very vague in general. Like they don't. They purposely keep it secret so that the spammers out there can't reverse engineer it, right? So yeah, it's very vague. Yeah.
You can tell a little bit if you're getting rate limited. So if you're not, there's an error, a 400 series error message you'll receive if you're sending too much or too fast. And so that's one indication that you are not yet warm, and it's not yet ready, but there's no certainty that it is ready.
It's definitely like a balancing act. It's a balancing act. Kind of going to what you were saying, one thing that's really cool is when you are sending and you see like anomalies like he mentioned, you can actually look at the logs. You can actually see how ISPs are treating your emails. So if a lot of them are being bounced or rejected, there's actual log that you can actually track, and it'll give you a reason. So that's one of the clues that you can use to utilize to see, okay, you know what, maybe it's not that time. Now, okay, I would say give it a month or two of responsible. It's not this excessive long probation period. I would say a month or two is fine. If you could do 1 month 2 months of responsible email marketing, you're okay. You're okay. So other things is, so signing up to one of these sites that monitor is really good because, and I'm not trying to show for them, it's just, it's been very effective for us to keeping our email list. And it's not that expensive, especially as you scale. If you have millions of subscribers, it's imperative that you monitor deliverability. Not only do they track the macro deliverability, but it's down to the actual email provider. So AOL, Google, Yahoo. So sometimes you'll see a certain email provider just rejected your email for whatever reason. So it's interesting to kind of debug and try to figure out what exactly it is about that email provider that is causing no deliverability. So kind of backtracking, these vigilante sites, they're called blacklists, okay? That is the most scary thing. If there's one thing that keeps me up at night, it's blacklists, okay? That's kind of what I mentioned about the spam house. Now, these sites actually partner with the email service providers. So if your IP is designated as a spammer, Yahoo, Gmail, they could do one of two things. They could just route it to spam box or reject it outright. Spam house, it was really publicized. This was not last Christmas season, but 2 Christmas seasons ago. They blocked One Kings Lane and a bunch of other major sites like Gap, put them on blacklist a week before Christmas, which was crazy, And for, Gap can survive, but for One Kings Lane, we had the overwhelming majority of our traffic come from email. That was our main channel, which is kind of wild, but that's just how Flash models work. So we were pretty much dead. Another good thing about these services like Return Path is they actually have sort of that red phone hotline to spam house. So these spam monitoring sites, and there's like over 100, okay? But there's really only 5 or 6 that you want to be concerned about. Spam house being one of them. They'll actually have like that direct hotline where they can contact, where they purposely are like a normal Joe Schmo would never be able to contact them. So that's another good thing about being involved with a reputation monitor firm, is that when you're in a jam, they can sometimes grease the wheels a bit. Another thing is, okay, one thing is there's hundreds of these blacklist sites. Keep in mind, most of them are scams. Basically, it goes like this. They will blacklist you, and they'll kind of try to extort you by saying, if you pay us X amount of money, we'll take you off our list. Don't fall for that. It's really, yeah, it's really goofy. It's basically they're a blacklist to nobody. So they're basically red flagging you. Nobody cares or knows who the hell these people are, but they kind of try to scare you, and saying like, oh, you're blacklisted. No one's gonna get your email, but it's totally bogus. Let's see, what else here?
Is there a blacklist for the blacklist people?
No, that's a good question. So the major, like Rackspace and Mail Monitor and Responses, they have a list of folks of blacklists, and then there's 2 tiers: the ones that you should care about, and then everybody else who are just don't worry. So short answer, yes, yeah.
And with Gmail sort of changing inbox and sort of having promotions, how do you measure deliverability into the inbox?
Great question. So there was a huge fear when they did tabs about now that they're filtering the emails to social, general, and promotion, that was going to do a huge drop. That fear was overblown. I mean, it was yes, we did have a dip, but it was not nearly as much as we thought it would be. In fact, some industries saw lift. But I'm glad you brought up that question, because some other tips is, this is with Gmail specifically, is Google is doing really exciting, fantastic things with email. They really are trying to change the way email is from the old style it is to more of like a to-do intelligent system. With promotions, always with Gmail, most people use Gmail now. Always make sure that you put that snippet of code that allows you because Gmail is going to slowly transition where you have the option to make it Pinterest style. I don't know if you guys are aware about that. So instead of having your emails in a line, you click a button and the emails just kind of have a square, very like a la Pinterest. If you haven't seen it, just Google it real quick. But every email it's just 6 lines of code. So every email you should embed this because it's in beta. So some folks have it, some folks don't. So you could either have your emails in traditional or you click it and every email is in Pinterest style. So that's one thing you should do. Another cool thing that Gmail just implemented, well, it's actually been out for a while, is actions in the subject line. So instead of, you don't even have to open the email. So you get an email, it's an invite. There's just a button on the subject line, RSVP, yes or no. You don't even open the email. That's another cool thing that they're doing. And these are just both of these functionalities is just 6 lines of code each, give or take a couple lines. So low-hanging fruit, definitely do that. So actually, that's the last slide I have. So let me open it up with any more QA. Yeah?
Do you have a rule of thumb for how many people you'll have in your subject line sample tests? How many people you need to run a subject line against to feel confident?
Yeah. So we have a full-time data scientist, and he usually just I give him the master list, and he gives me the minimum number that I need for statistically significant. But I mean, that doesn't help you at all. So what I do is I'll have my winning subject line, and then I would, when he's not available, I'll do it maybe set aside 10, at most 25%, and just test the hell out of it. So subject line testing is one of the easiest things that you should all be doing because it's low effort and it has such big bang for the buck. So we test subject lines every day, and we're going to be testing it forever. Because what's winning today might not necessarily win tomorrow. So it's, again, approach email as a constantly iterative process. It's always evolutionary. What's hot today, what's a fad today might not be a fad tomorrow. So just kind of approach it like that, like a infinite wheel. Yeah.
So related to that, I've noticed this from my personal email. What do you think about gimmick subject lines where it says something like, "Rick, check this out"?
That's a fantastic question.
Like from jQuery.
Yep.
Subject line with emoji.
Yep. So, yeah, awesome. So the question was, how about subject lines that are a bit gimmicky, also using symbols? So I found symbols to be highly effective. If you haven't been using symbols in your subject line, you should. Especially the way that they render on phones, iPhones specifically. It's not sort of that old school ASCII. iPhone translates it to a nicer image. Just don't overuse it, because what we found is people can get tired of it and it loses its novelty. But definitely throw it in for special events. Birthday, have a little star. Try keep it fresh, keep it relevant. So if used without going overboard where you have it every single day, I've definitely seen lift. Now, the second part of this question is gimmicky subject line, sort of that clickbait. This is where you really, when you're looking at email, it's not just open rate, right? It's the composite of open and click rate. Because what you'll find is you may have an email that has awesome open rate, 80% open rate, but then only 10 people click. Why? Because the subject line did not align with the content of the email. You should always look at that composite, because at the end of the day, what really matters is how many people open that email, looked at the content, and go, yeah, that's good. Click, log in, and have some kind of conversion, right? So you always want to look at that composite. You don't look at the open rate and click rate independently. You really want to make sure that you're looking, yeah?
How much is too much? I know that everybody has different products, but what's the limit that you've seen where people go, this is too many?
Too many, yeah. You know, that's a very art question. It kind of, like, for me, I personally try to limit it to once a month. But that's just me. We're constantly doing testing. So we can increase that, we can decrease that. It kind of is dependent on every single list and your own industry and what your makeup is. Yeah. Yeah, question over there.
I like the subject line part. Does it work like in the same way, like, you know, like the do not call list? Like, the do not call list doesn't affect, like, I believe, political campaign and you know,
Right.
organizations. So, like, if you add, like, something like, you know, Obama in your subject line, will it still make it past it?
Yeah, I like your questions. Your questions are definitely very. He brings up a great point. So certain emails are exempt from canned spam. I didn't even go into that, right? So anything like terms of agreement, updated your privacy policy, transactional, right? Political, right? There's certain things that are definitely exempt. You want to just tread a really fine line here because you can get in trouble. Although with our current prosecution rate, it's probably very unlikely, right? As you can see, the spam is not going away; it's only increasing. But I would say kind of try to stay away from that. I would focus on branding. So if you do have like one of those occasions where you can broadcast your own group, don't try to sell them anything, but make it as pretty as possible to kind of just remind them of your company and your brand, so that hopefully that is a soft engagement play. Yeah. Yeah.
How does a company decide not to send an email address to a specific email ID? For example, if a company has acquired an email address from LinkedIn and the person or the account holder has an official email ID there, how do you decide not to send an email address there? Because you are probably spamming his official email ID.
So like kind of like if they've connected with your company through LinkedIn, like through.
A lot of social networks. I provided an email address, for example, on Facebook, which
Yeah.
is first name dot now, last name at
Yeah.
wellsfargo.com, where I currently work, right? And probably your company has acquired my email address through Facebook, and then you decide to shoot an email address.
Yeah.
To shoot an email to all the email
Yeah.
applications that you had, but given that it's actually not a personal email ID but an official email ID, how do you decide?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, I'm working on this very subject right now. So it's very the question was, if you are somehow partnered with a site and you have some sort of connection with them, and you acquired the email from that partner site, what are the regulatory and legal hurdles or requirements do you have in order to send to them? So it's all based, whenever you sign up to a site and you have to scroll all the way down and click that box and hit proceed. Facebook and most of those sites will have in there, if you look, we reserve the right to, if you sign up, to share cross-marketing, unless sometimes people have that second box that says, I do not want to receive marketing material, but oftentimes it's just that one box. You're basically saying you're giving permission for that site to market to you, have their partner market to you. Now that's not always the case. So before you do that, you actually have to have your legal group or actually just talk to their legal team and just make sure that it's okay, that their user has given express permission for a partner to market to them. Otherwise, you're spamming. Any other questions? Yeah.
Paul, you mentioned segmenting lists.
Yes.
Earlier.
Yes.
I was wondering if you guys use any special tools to accomplish that or manage that.
So we don't use any special tools. All our data is just in Vertica. But let me just kind of give you examples of what we did at previous places. So basically, we had all the purchase information of our customers. And we were able to see trends and patterns on what products would incent a person, to make their first purchase, like the price point, oftentimes the category. We segmented by the frequency of purchase as well as the amount. So we had certain segmentations, and based on this, our data scientists were able to kind of come up with a model, a probability model, to say you have these different personas and they have X percentage of converting. We would tailor, so let me give you a specific example. So once we looked at all our people and we said, you know what, the majority of our folks purchased products at this X price point as their first purchase, okay? When we sent emails to these people, the very first things we did was put those types of items as the very first thing, okay? Then we had the people who were the high rollers that bought the really expensive stuff. We would not market to them. We would reorder the sales so that our more expensive stuff was at the very top. And instead of them seeing some cheapy thing that they weren't interested in, they'd be like, oh, that's nice. And vice versa, the person who was more of the entry level, just kind of wanted to try us out, sees this really good deal on this really nice pillow or chair or whatever. Yeah. So we don't use any special tool. I mean, if you have a reasonable background in databases, you can kind of see these patterns yourself. It's a good place to start, and then you could always get as fancy or advanced as you want. Any other? Yeah.
So let me know if this is off topic.
No, no.
One of the things I was trying to do with my app is send a confirmation for the login. So they need to get code to log in, and my provider, we shall remain. Sometimes it's, it comes in a second, but sometimes it takes a minute or two. And so I haven't found a solution. Is it really the solution for me to spin up my own server?
No. So you're saying that your app, when they log in, there's sort of like a confirmation email that gets sent out.
Well, registration.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And sometimes that just takes a long time.
Yeah, unexpectedly long. So especially when I tell, we just do this, and now just open your email and it will be right there. And
then sometimes it's just forever. Yeah. So
it's a big problem because just for them to get to that point, you might lose them.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Like, that's a very valid concern. The question was when he has an app, and when you log in, there's that email confirmation. We've all done it, seen it. And sometimes it takes forever to get delivered. What I suspect is the email service provider using, they're probably using a shared pool of IPs. I'm just assuming, okay? So the volatility you're seeing is if for some reason that the IP that you're assigned at that moment is favorable, it goes in right away. If the IP that was used previously was just used from a Nigerian scammer, you're never going to see it again. So how to move forward? I would ask to see if your email service provider can give you a dedicated IP. That'd be a good first start. Get a dedicated IP. I think that's a good place to start. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
I might have my own IP, and it might not be a good solution, but so from a user's perspective, when I receive when I go to some website and I sign up and I expect to get some information email, if I'm warned beforehand that the email should arrive in the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's okay. I go to my inbox, the email is not there, but I know that it's okay to wait for 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
If I know beforehand, it might be not a 100% solution, but.
Oh yeah, definitely. As a short-term play, always put have a longer tail, 5-10 minutes, and then also the customary check your spam. If you don't get it, check your. We've all seen that. Yeah.
In addition to that, I think you could just code the logic of your website so that you restrict access to some parts. You know how you said you have your line that says you know, you can access this only if you verify your email. But still, like, give access to the rest. So the user is automatically logged into the app, and only when he confirms that is the actual email that he signed up with, then you have a 100% full app, like you can actually access, right? So you still have the user is still using some parts of your app which are maybe not as critical, right? And at the same time, you have the confirmation email coming at some point, which, like you said, might be 20 seconds, could be 5 minutes. But the user still uses the app in the meantime. Just a subset.
Like a subgate. Any other questions? Okay, well, I hope there's still food and there's beer in the back. I want to thank again Rackspace for hosting. I do have to do this. So Credit Karma is growing rapidly. We are successful. We just got our second round, actually it's our fourth round, but second round from Google. We are hiring aggressively. So we are moving to 760 market. So my name's Paul Chua. I don't have any business cards because we're very frugal, but we are profitable. And we've been profitable. So we actually are not vaporware. So we're hiring. If any of you are interested, please connect with me on LinkedIn. And I'd be happy to talk with you because we're always looking for new engineers, and not just engineers, but every discipline. So if you're interested, please stop by. And if not, just connect with me on LinkedIn. Just look me up, Paul Chua. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate. I'd be happy to answer anything. So thanks, guys.
Thanks,